Well, hello, good evening, and welcome everybody to my 8 p.m. live stream. First of all, a warm welcome to you as you join on well, certainly with me anyway, a very cold and showery June evening outside. So, yes, it's nice to end the week with you here. So, hopefully, oh, hi, Bridget. Nice to see you. Someone's telling me it's a weak signal. Don't know about that. It's a weak, strong signal on my end, City Flyer. So hello to all of you. And this evening you've got me just on my own. I'm solo tonight. So I hope that's going to be okay with you. But there's loads to talk about, loads and loads of stuff. So I hope that's going to be okay. I see a couple of people are saying that the stream is fuzzy. Just out of interest, by the way, yeah, some of you, quite a few of you are saying the stream is fuzzy. So I don't know why that is. Let me see if I can check and make something better happen. Just bear with me. So hi Graham, by the way, nice to see you on the scope as well. Lots of people telling me that I'm fuzzy. I'm really not fuzzy at this end, so it has got to be. I'll tell you what I think it is. I think it's the fact that where I live, my broadband signal is not very strong, and it's particularly weak on the fuzzy issue. Well, I'll tell you what I can do. I can do a couple of things here, but yeah, you're saying too many of you are saying fuzzy. Hey, listen, can you shall I continue with this, or are you happy? Someone says fuzzy. Okay, I can do two things, folks. I can just turn the video off and you can hear me, or you can watch the fuzziness and hear me. So you tell me what you prefer. But I guess I think I just continue with this as is. So listen, don't even look at me if it's too fuzzy. I'm really sorry about that. Someone's saying restart. So do you want me to restart it? No, I think most of you are saying continue. I'm going to continue, folks. It's just annoying, but this is the problems of trying to use technology, living in a rural environment. It makes life a bit tricky. Anyway, thanks very much. Lots of you on the stream. And Steve, that's very good. Can I say, Brian, you're absolutely right. My looks are by no means important. Suffice to say, can you folks do me a favor, share this on your own timelines, and if you're on Periscope or if you're on Facebook, please share so other people know. Hi Gaynor, nice to see you, Kevin. So if you could do that for me, and I think the way this system works, I'm not sure the trolls can get on, and if they do, I'll wipe them out. So just the usual form. If you can do, send me heart if on Periscope, send me hearts if you like what I'm saying, send me a super heart if you really like what I'm saying. If you can do all that, that's fine. I mean, listen, I wanted to just say to you folks that obviously this last couple of weeks, there's this new format that I've introduced. And I know it's still early days, but I do think that that there's a lot of potential in this. And just to give you an idea of some of my plans, I do plan to have sort of regular guests who come on, and hopefully you'll enjoy the regular guests. So I'm hoping that this is a big shout out. Anne-Marie Waters, the leader of the For Britain Party, and a truly brave and courageous lady. I'm hoping that Anne-Marie will join me every other Friday. So if you like Anne-Marie Waters, you can come on, talk to her, talk to me. I'm also hoping that Rebecca Butler will also join me on a regular basis as well. I'm sure Rebecca's an incredibly articulate and really interesting person. So I think hopefully she'll be with me Monday night. So we're going to have Anne-Marie, we're going to have Rebecca, and we're also having my co-founder of Alt News Media and my good friend Ed, who was on with me on Wednesday night. So we're hoping to have these people and then other people as well as they join in the conversation. So listen, you can see what I'm trying to do. I know it doesn't always flow right. I get all of that, but we will get there. If there's one thing about me, folks, if anyone knows me, I am very persistent to the point of possibly not good. Harry's asking, what about Katie? I most definitely will have Katie Hopkins here on the stream as well. So you can be assured, like, there's going to be lots of entertainment, lots of really good people, and the main thing is that you folks will find it enjoyable and find it interesting. And actually, so it's Gary saying, I can come on if you want to join. I'll just take Gary's comment up. If you want the joiner's perspective, listen, I want to be able to find ways to bring people on and make us as interreactive as absolutely possible. So Gary, my plans are multiple. And I want to. Thanks, by the way, Deborah, for the kind words. Someone says, Rebecca, yes. Anne-Marie Waters, no. Katie Hopkins, yes. Well, I have to say, I consider them all really good people. And of course, we'll always not agree on things, and that's the way it should be. But anyway, so that's the plan, and I hope in the main you're enjoying what I'm trying to do. I can still do the little kind of periscopes, just sitting, on my couch. That's all. Well, hello, Linda. Nice to see you in the stream. Can do all that. So anyway, listen. Thanks very much for being here with me tonight. This Friday night, and there's a couple of things that I really want to talk about in some detail. I want to talk about the race riots in the States, the collapse of law and order in the States, the race baiting of the media in the States and here in the UK. I want to talk about all of those things, folks. And then in addition to that, I want to talk about what I see as the collapse of lockdown, actually, the hypocrisy of lockdown and the hypocrisy of the continuing, in my opinion, very dodgy death certificates being issued. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So these are all things that I'm going to chat about. I hope you find them interesting. Can I start by asking you all a question? You've seen lots on the mainstream media about George Floyd. Can anyone tell me why George Floyd was pulled in and stopped by the police in the first place? Does anybody know? Question for you all, folks. Yep, Joanne has got the Joanne. Thanks, Joanne. Joan. Sorry, Joan. You got it. And so I see you other folks. He was and Chris has also got it. I see your comments here. He basically George and two others pulled up to a store. He went in. He was a driver. He went in with a $20 note. And the owners of the store realized very quickly it was counterfeit. Now, that's the origin of this entire story with George Floyd. And the thing about it is that, counterfeit currency, it happens. I could go into the store tomorrow and, well, of course, not that any stores are really that many stores are open, and not that many stores take cash anymore, but I could go in and accidentally give a counterfeit £20 note or whatever. It can happen. So when the owners realized that the $20 note was counterfeit, they came out. He bought a packet of cigarettes with it. They came out and they said to him, "Hey, listen, this is a counterfeit note. Can we have our tobacco back? You can have your counterfeit note back." George thought about it. He was sitting on his car, apparently with a couple of the others. He was outside at that point. He said, "No." And therein is the genesis of all of this. All he had to do was give them back the packet of cigarettes that he'd bought using the $20 note, and none of this would have happened. But the fact is that, of course, he said no, he didn't. Now, people say, but you shouldn't lose your life because of a counterfeit note. Exactly. But it's that which led to the problems. I see you folks are talking about other things, but I'm determined to talk about this. I'll talk about the R rate, and I'll talk about some of the other things that are going on. But what happened there was that the police arrived at the scene, having been called on 9/11, And they found George by this point was inside the vehicle as the driver. He was in the driving seat. He wouldn't get. He got out of the car when he was asked and cooperated initially with the police officers. And then what happened? Then what happened was two things. Well, a couple of things happened. Number one, he would not get in the back of the police car, and he said he couldn't do that because he was claustrophobic. Well, listen, we all know that's a lie. That's a lie because George had gotten out of a police car. He'd been or of a car. He was driving this car with his two mates. So the fact that his claim he couldn't get in the police car because he was claustrophobic was patently false. But nobody in the media talks about that. The media want to give you so that there's the first thing. So he did commit a felony in terms of the counterfeit note. That could have been solved if he'd just given the tobacco back. He didn't do that. He then could have cooperated with the police, but he didn't cooperate with the police. He wouldn't get in the back of the car. And so it was at that point when the police officers recognized that this hulking great man was not interested in cooperating with them, that he then was turned around, handcuffed, put on his stomach, and then the officer put his knee to his knee to his neck. So we know that this is the run of the things. Now consider this. Can I just say this? Consider this. Consider you're one of those cops, right? So you're in this terrible situation where you've got this guy, big guy, not cooperating with you. He's not prepared to. He's resisting arrest. What are you going to do? Are you going to walk away? Is that okay? Police officers only can arrest people who are prepared to be arrested. No. So look. So the reality is that he could have cooperated. He had to get rid of the drugs first. Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a good comment here. Good comment, Super J. He couldn't cooperate. Yes, there was a white packet that went missing. I know that. Yeah, there is that as well. And the thing is, Super J, this is stuff in the public domain, and yet the legacy media, the fake stream media, don't want to talk about it, and so we have to. So let's move on. So therefore, he was then held down, and the move of putting a knee to the neck, which has caused so much controversy, is lawful across the states. Many police forces exercise this maneuver when they're dealing with very, very difficult situations with the individuals who may be dangerous. I mean, it's also worth pointing out, by the way, that Floyd was high on narcotics at the time as he was driving. He had fentanyl, for example, in the system. Fentanyl is an illegal narcotic, 100 times more powerful than morphine. Yeah, 100 times more powerful than morphine. George was driving around with that. He also had other drugs, illegal drugs in his system. This was a guy with he had heart disease. This is a very, very, very dangerous combination. So, when the autopsy came out, and the official autopsy, and that autopsy did indicate that he wasn't asphyxiated to death. The media again seem to just ignore that and then we cut to the chase here. The media have their own narrative. The media want to portray and always have portrayed the notion that in the States, it's white cops driving around looking for a black guy to pile up on. That's their narrative. And that is exactly what they've been pushing relentlessly since the death of Mr. Floyd. Now, of course, I'm very sorry that anyone should lose their life in the circumstances that Mr. Floyd did. But, contrary to what, for example, the Chief Constable of Northern Ireland said today when he virtue signaled about the murder of George Floyd, being how awful it was, there has been no trial, folks. There has been no conviction. So to say that George Floyd was murdered, for a chief constable to say that, indicates such a lamentable lack of understanding of the law. It absolutely staggers me. Tony says it was murder. Tony, I'll leave your comment up. It might be murder, Tony, but nobody's been convicted. You can't just go around alleging murder. It has to be proven. That's how things work. So that's the way it is. And if people don't like that, tough. That's the law. But of course, we've now seen the situation move on, because Black Lives Matter then have come piled right in the back of this, as they always do. And as I've pointed out earlier today, Black Lives Matter, I've got so many problems with Black Lives Matter. I did a short video earlier on some of it. But here's a bigger point on Black Lives Matters. Black Lives, here's a good comment. Black Lives Matter is, in my opinion, a racist organization. And I'll tell you why it's racist. Because it's singling out one ethnicity and pointing out that the lives in that ethnicity matter. Well, of course they do. Black lives matter. White lives matter. All lives matter. You cannot put one above the other. And that's the fact of the matter. And so the very essence of Black Lives Matter is very, very problematical. But let me, one thing the mainstream media has failed cataclysmically to do, excuse me, is to consider what are the aims of Black Lives Matter. Well, the aims of Black Lives Matter, folks, is on their website. Just go and look it up. They want to defund policing across the states. Think about that. I'm not fuzzy anymore. Thanks, Chris. I've got a nasty cough, not COVID. So you've got an organization that wants to defund the police. Does that seem fair enough to you folks? Just defund them, get rid of the police. That's what Black Lives Matter want. They also want to see the prisons shut down. Does anybody see a problem? Is it just me, or does anyone else see a problem out there? Because there is a problem out there. No, hi back, Chris. Thanks very much. I've been ghosted from my timeline. Oh yes, Twitter have been playing all their usual games. I'm just reading your comments. The cough has cleared the view. Good one, Harry. So Black Lives Matter, in my opinion, is an institutionally racist organization which race baits. And if it gets its way, policing ceases to exist. Now, that's going to be a bit dodgy, isn't it? Is that okay? Just let's get rid of policing. Let's get rid of the rule of law. Whose law will we then be subject to? This is what Black Lives Matter stand for. Close prisons. No, build bigger prisons and put more thugs behind bars. That's what I'd like to see. And actually, there's a really good comment from Roz. Lawless anarchy. Roz, that's exactly what this is all about. They want an anarchy which is going to cause incredible chaos in the United States in election year. Funny old world, isn't it? They've tried with COVID to get what they want, and Trump, I believe, has handled that reasonably well. I'm sure you saw the figures. The US economy has roared back today against all the experts' expectations. Millions of jobs being created in the month of May. The US is bouncing back. So they knew that had failed. So what do they have now? Race riots, George Floyd riots. That's what they're trying. And this is actually, when you see the Democrat Party leaders like Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and they're all part of like almost a criminal corruptocracy operating across the piece, and they want to bring down the United States as it is. So it's really disturbing to see what's going on. Destroyer says Black Lives Matter absolutely is racist, infiltrated by Antifa. Absolutely right. Yeah, and there's actually Tony makes a really good point. I don't know if you've seen, I've seen this video, and Tony's obviously seen it. Others may have seen it. A chap called Tony Timber, a white guy, was killed by police in very much the same manner. I've seen the video. It's pretty appalling. No outrage. Why is it that outrage only becomes confected when, in this case, it's a black guy who, loses his life? a black guy with a criminal record, a black guy high on narcotics, a black guy resisting arrest. My point is, the narrative that the media have tried to put forward, namely police guys just driving around wanting to take out a black guy, it is so far from the truth. That's my only point. It may well be that the officer did go too far using the excessive force, and it may be that a jury finds him guilty of third degree or second degree murder. I'm not sure. But all I am saying is we should most definitely wait. If we believe in justice, we should as sure as hell wait for the trial, and if there's to be a conviction or not. I'm sure there will be, because this is one where, Kevin makes a point here. I'll put it up for you folks to see. Black lives matter, white lives don't matter equals fact. Well, Kevin, the thing is that, unfortunately, you may be right, but I believe that all lives matter, and therefore it's wrong to prioritize one over another. Roz, he was a big guy. I'm just trying to get your comment there coming up. He's 6'6", was George Floyd. He was also foaming at the mouth. Now, one other thing I wanted to say about George Floyd, and this links into the second part I want to chat about, which is COVID. The autopsy showed he had COVID-19 in his body. Yeah, that's right, COVID-19 in his body. Apparently, he tested positive on April the 3rd. So this guy also had COVID in his body. Now, the way this one works is that if he had have died in the UK, his death would have been attributed to COVID. You may think, but that's stupid. I mean, it clearly wasn't COVID-19 that killed him. Yeah, it wasn't COVID-19 that killed him. I agree. Makes you wonder about all those deaths being recorded every day here in the UK, all those COVID-19 deaths where the death is, as long as the death certificate says that COVID-19 was found in the body, then that's what caused the death. So on that basis, COVID-19 was found in George Floyd's body. Therefore, same logic, that's what caused his death, even though it didn't. So you can see how absolutely flaky the system of attributing death to COVID is. The other thing I wanted to sort of touch on is, before we go on to COVID, those people taking the knee. Have you seen those people taking the knee to prove, I'm not sure why they're taking the knee. Well, what is this supposed to prove, taking the knee? Doesn't prove anything, in my opinion. Hi, Colin. Nice to see you. All it proves is that there's virtue signalers to be found around every corner. So the thing that disgusted me most was police officers in London taking the knee. And Sue, I'll put up your comment. Yeah, you're right. I mean, but it's actually, it's worse than that, Sue, because those police officers weren't armed. They were facing a baying, howling mob. So they were up against, they were in a pretty precarious position in London. But there was no need for them to take the knee. They should have stood strong. They shouldn't exercise, in this opinion, a clear political bias. To take the knee is a political act. It's happening across the piece. You've seen them. Loads of police forces, but loads of other circumstances as well. People are taking the knee. People who are supposed to be neutral, like I saw a picture of a co-op store in England where all the staff were taking the knee, are making an overt political point. And that, I'm not sure, taking the knee, Chris is right here. Those officers, by the way, who took the knee, presumably to appease the crowd, didn't save them. The crowd still had a go at them anyway. And is there anything more, pathetic? If you ask those people taking the knee, what do you think you're going to achieve by this, apart from publicity? The answer seems to be some vague about justice for George. Well, George will get justice in a court of law. That's how it works. But the left don't want that. The left want to burn it down. They want to burn law and justice, the justice down. They want to burn cities down. They want to, Brian makes a good point. Would he get a fair trial, depending on whether the judge is a Democrat or Republican? Well, it's a very good question. I actually think, Brian, to be honest, he's on a loser. I think the media bloodlust to get a conviction is going to be so great that he's going to be found guilty, of whatever, I don't know, but he will be found guilty. Yeah, someone saying 1882 QPR says there's a video of Tony Tempa. Yeah, Tony was killed by the Dallas police. I mean, here's the other thing in this one. I can see this from both perspectives. The fact is that the police are not perfect, and police officers do get things wrong, and there's some bad apples in every barrel. We know all of that, but let's understand that, until you've done their job and put up with what they have to endure, then frankly, you got to be a wee bit careful before you pile in and start patronizing and lecturing them. Of course, to the fore in all of this has been the celebrities. Have you seen all the celebs? Those celebs that have been locked away for the past 3 months because of COVID. Suddenly, with one bound, they're free. Yes, the celebs can now virtue signal. I seen one of the, was it Caitlyn Jenner? One of them anyway, out, showing her loyalty for Black Lives Matter. Oh my God, so authentic, so plausible, so fake, so useless. But they're back. The celebs are all back. And not only that, but have you seen some of the celebrities apologizing? Did you see that comedian, folks? If you're in the UK, Monica saying now, please follow me back. If you message me, Monica, I will. Sometimes my timeline gets so busy, I miss loads of stuff. If someone's looking to follow, just send me a message. I'll follow you. Just let me know, please. So the celebs, yeah, there was a comedian in the UK, Keith Lemon, who's apologizing for way back in the 90s when he was vaguely funny, and his act consisted in some cases of blacking up as, I think it was Scary Spice, I think was the one, or one of the Spice Girls. And he did a routine with her, which at the time I remember was quite relatively amusing, and she found it funny. And now he's apologizing for that. What's wrong, Keith? We're worried about your career, worried that bookings might dry up, unless you get down and be a cuck comedian. And that's right, Jack. Dangerfield did a video on a cuck comedian. There's loads of cuck comedians out there. Not least Matt Lucas, actually. Did you see? I put a little tweet out before I came on stream. Matt Lucas, who also, back in the days of Little Britain, dressed up as a black person. Oh, Matt, but you're too busy virtue signaling. Matt, when will you get on a knee and apologize, make reparations, send money to Black Lives Matters? Because I think that's exactly what Black Lives Matter is all about. It's about cash rustling as much as anything else. But anyway, so that's enough on this, on things in the state. I think we're going to have some very dangerous times ahead. We'll talk about them, obviously, as the days progress. But I'm pretty sure that what we're seeing at the moment is a subversion of law and order in the States. They're trying to get it here as well in the UK. And the pretext is Black Lives Matters. Tomorrow in Belfast, in several cities around the UK, London, Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, there's big rallies for George, for justice for George. Yeah. And that brings me to my second point. Whatever happened to COVID-19? Have you seen it? Because it seems to have gone missing in action. The COVID-19 thing. The COVID-19 that meant that we had to be locked away in our houses. If we do go outside, we have to stick 2 meters apart from any other human being, unless they're a family member. And in many instances that require us to wear masks. Yeah, that COVID-19, where's it gone? Because it's certainly not in London. It can't be in Belfast. Can't be in Birmingham. Can't be in most major Democrat US cities. How do I know that? Well, because I've seen crowds of thousands of baying left-wingers out protesting. And they all were not observing any social distancing. Yeah, not bothered. What did the police do? Nothing. Oh, so let me get this right. So left-wing agitprop In some instances, violent demonstrators can do whatever they want in public without repercussion. But if you or I tried that, I think we'd be nicked. And guess what? That to me shows that I'm just reading some of your comments. Graham saying protest in groups of 6 was the instruction today. Well, hey, Graham, that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the big demos of only 6 people tomorrow in our major cities. And if it's any more than 6 people and the police allow that, then what have we got to say about the police? Apparently, Cressida Dick, and if ever there was a person with a most appropriate surname, it's her, the head of the Met, said that in London, they took the decision not to enforce social distancing because it might have caused riots, more violence. Oh, I see. So if you threaten violence, the Met won't impose a law on you. My. Gosh, I really hope that someone says, yeah. Chris says, nothing says justice for George, more like a new 70-inch TV and a new Gucci handbag looted from your local store. Oh, yeah, it's what George would have wanted, some might think. But anyway, it was just, yeah, Jack makes a really good point here, by the way. Sorry, I'm just reading a couple of your comments. Just bringing this one up here. Jack Russell says, apparently, it's not the law that we follow the social distancing. It's guidance, according to the police. Well, fair enough then. So my guidance to you is do whatever the heck you want. Social distancing is dead in the water. It's surrealness, the way in which this whole COVID-19 prison that we've been in has been busted open by the left, because the left mobsters took to the streets. The police sat back and in some instances actually seemed to almost applaud them. You can't live in a country with 2 parallel standards of law. You can't say for those on the right, you must obey social distancing, but then for those on the left, do what you want. It can't be like that. But it is, isn't it? I mean, it's not just me saying this. So I think there are some fun. Hi, Carol, by the way. Bet we get pulled up when we go to Scotland to Cumbria next week to visit family. We'll have to riot. Yeah, the thing to do, Carol, bit of advice. If you're pulled over by the police, tell them you're showing your respect for George Floyd. And would they please now kneel and show a little bit of respect for the fallen American man. That would be my advice, Carol, if you are stopped by the police. Somebody says there was a lady pooping. What did she achieve? Yeah, there was an image actually of a police of a feral leftist of the lowest denominator actually defecating on a police car. It's what the left do. And you know something? Here's the thing. It excites the media. You can tell the media is 100% on board with them. The media love the narrative. The white man bad, orange man bad, black man always good. And then, of course, sorry, I needed to say this as well. Like there's been several, actually, I think about 12 people, most of whom were black, who have been killed in these race riots. Now, I have asked the Reverend Al Sharpton and Obama what their views are on black people being killed by Black Lives Matters inspired mobs. Haven't had a response yet, though. No response. For some reason, I'm not quite sure. And then Super J says, a couple of YouTubers have pointed out the difference in policing between Black Lives Matter protests and freedom movement protests. And of course, you're right. Well, there's a reason for that. The reason is that the establishment is not on your side. Those of us who obey the law or want to obey the law and believe in the rule of law are being made into third-class citizens. Meanwhile, the arsonists and the looters and the rioters and the thugs, they're being praised as the very highest standards of moral virtue. Ask yourself why that is. Yes, Chris, I saw indeed the Reverend Al Sharpton. You can call me Al Sharpton at the funeral. Al, who I understand normally requires a fee for attending such funerals, or so it is said. But then, given that the GoFundMe for George's funeral, the last time I looked, was 8.5 million, I think that could probably pay for Al Sharpton's expenses, if he does need money for that. Rob's asking me the question, do you agree the BBC are fueling this fire for their own political agenda and bias? Absolutely. The BBC, like most of the media, hate President Trump. The BBC also have a real problem with white people. They're even though most of them are white, they're self-loathers. So this all plays very much into their agenda. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow. But anyway, as I said, you cannot have all these people on the streets and then turn around plausibly and say to people, but this COVID-19, it's so dangerous, so lethal, we still got to be so careful. It's impossible. You do see this. Hi, Miss Brexit. Thanks very much for coming on. Nice to see you on the stream tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's a couple of comments to put up. There's Mick says, I was in Sierra Leone in '99. They were hacking each other's limbs off and worse. Yep, there's certainly big issues there. But basically, yes, this whole COVID-19 farce really has to come to an end. I mean, I think what the best thing government could do is responsibly turn around to us and say, okay, we're now bringing the lockdown to an end. All business can go back, including public sector workers. All of you got to go back as well, folks. You can't expect a long summer holiday paid at our expense when you've been off for 3 months. But teachers do. And then in the second instance, the government could also say, and social distancing, as long as you stay about, a foot away from each other, that's enough. That would restore normality in our society. But that's not going to happen because for some reason, which it's quite hard to fully fathom, government wants to carry on regardless with this economic destruction which the lockdown has caused, and the misery and also the fear. I'm aware of people through direct experience who are almost at the edge of their whole well-being. They are so depressed over the lockdown and the endless fear stories on the BBC and all the rest of them that they actually worry that is, sort of tough questions like, is life worth living anymore? Now, of course it is, and I hasten to say that that's not my view. But all I'm saying is some people have been really depressed, really, really depressed over this. So, and I also do agree, by the way, with people saying here. Nick says, why are the deaths from COVID being massaged? What's the actual number? Well, the media want more lockdown. Well, that's Chris. Actually, yes, I did promise you I would say this. So here's how it is. The numbers don't justify the numbers of infections. The numbers of deaths do not justify these prison-like conditions that we've been put in. So that's an awkward one for the government. And even though the deaths are basically including people who just have got COVID, amongst other factors on their death certificate, so they didn't die of COVID, like George Floyd, they died with COVID, but even allowing for all of that. Carol says she's left the group. It was too depressing. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Carol. It's one of these things. Ultimately, a group's made up of 3,500 individuals in that case. Some are depressive, some aren't. Yeah. Even if you allow for all of that, and this is to Chris's point, what they're now saying is, first of all, the BMA, who I deplore, by the way, the doctors' trade union, they're saying it's not good enough that you've all got to wear masks if you go on public transport. Can you imagine tens of thousands of people in the London Underground in masks? Wow, that's going to be so lovely. But that's not good enough for the BMA. No, they've said, no, that doesn't go far enough. If you go out anywhere where there's a danger that social distancing might not be the case, you got to wear a mask. So that's basically everywhere. Now, I'm sorry. I really don't know well, Joseph's asking me the question, what is the end game? I think the end game is more captivity for us and more power for the politicians. I think that's what the end game is. But they're using the transmission rate, the T rate that they go on about. It's rising apparently across the north of England. It's on the rise in the northwest, the northeast, I think it is. And so because the transmission rate is on the rise, more lockdown. Maybe we need to bring back some of those very small liberties we've given you. I mean, this is what they're at. This is the scale of it. Nick again says most deaths actually, Nick, if you look in statistically in the UK, most deaths are 80 plus. And I'm sorry, but listen, people 80 plus, here's what they do. They die. It's that simple. And COVID-19 is a complicating factor, yes, in some instances, because of the nature of the protein spike on the coronavirus. I know it particularly impacts in terms of the lungs. Well, Brian's saying they all wore gas masks during 40 to 45. Well, they did when there was attacks on. But I mean, you knew when the air sirens went, maybe that there was an issue, Brian. How are we going to work this one? And should there be a COVID siren? Somebody saying, I think the scariest thought is that when the end game are we seeing is how it plays out. Well, as I say, I think you ain't seen nothing yet, because on COVID, just as on the race riots, there's one big agenda in play. The big agenda in play is, if you can possibly do so, get Donald Trump out of office. That's the main thing, the main game in play. If you remove Trump from office, the globalist agenda will advance without any issues, without any problems. That's how it's going to be. Oh, by the way, Francis makes a very good point. Wearing a mask is bad for your health. Well, yes, Francis, it's very bad for your health. It means that your immune system becomes suppressed. The longer you wear it, the more suppressed you get. And here's one, actually, by the way, for any sports fans on the scope here. I wanted to say, Chris, good point. What the media are doing is, because there's not enough people dying every day, they're giving the cumulative death figure. So it's the cumulative death figure. It's 40,000 dead. It's 40,000 dead. Okay, let's break that down over the time scale. Let's break that down by age demographic. Let's break that down by people with comorbidities. And all of a sudden, guess what? It's a very, very different story. And then, of course, you've got the irony on COVID that I see today, there's going to be an inquiry into why has the BAME community been so badly affected. They need to be careful about the questions they ask, because they mightn't like the answers. For example, not least as Rebecca Butler pointed out when she was on with me earlier this week, that parts of that BAME community have got issues in terms of, for example, obesity, in terms of not having as many T cells to fight back against infection. There's all kinds of complexity in this one, but the most important thing you can do is what Carol Proctor's saying here, and that is work hard to have a good, healthy immune system. And the worst bloody thing, there's two things you shouldn't do. Top tips. Do not suppress your own immune system by wearing a mask, because that's just really bad. And the second thing is, if you possibly can, go out and get some sunshine. And think about it. Jane's I'll put this point up. Jane says, the virus is amazing. It gets us up to 1.99, but not to 2 meters. That's right, Jane. It's a virus which is even more amazing, because apparently it's safe enough to, this virus is so smart. It won't go into a supermarket, but it would go into a church or a chapel or a synagogue or even a mosque. What a clever virus, coronavirus. Or maybe it's other things that are clever and not the virus. However, as I say, going back on topic, I was going to ask you football fans several questions. I understand that racing has started again, and I understand that the jockeys are being fitted with medical quality masks, with a mask on them. How on earth can you perform, as a top sports person with a mask? It sounds like hell. Oh, by the way, Linda, I'm sorry about your immune system being poor due to chemo, but keep trying. There's lots of things, Linda, you can do. Even a weakened immune system can bounce back if you do the right things, eat and consume the right things, the right lifestyle. If you can, a little bit of exercise outdoors. I'm not going into all the details now, but there's things you can do. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Daniel asked, top question, Daniel. Will the horses wear masks too? Well, this is what I want to know. Where will those masked horses be? But then football kicks back. And of course, there's not going to be any fans there. Oh, no, we're going to have football without the fans, which is going to be really interesting and horrible, I suspect. But will the players be wearing masks? Does anybody know? Will football players have to also wear masks? And football's a contact game. So if you go in and you tackle another guy, you're going to have physical contact. Football players spit, and that's actually a relatively natural thing if you're running around and exuding a lot of sweat. So there's something. Someone says, "Hey David, I wanted to know if I loot a store or mug someone, what should I wear to hide my face?" Well, of course, you shouldn't loot a store or mug someone. That's the correct answer to that one. Yeah, the German Aidan says, Aidan, perhaps you can answer my question. German league's already on. So if the German, and that you're right, actually, do they wear masks? Or is it possible that all these events are showing that the whole essence of COVID is just one massive, grotesque farce that should be absolutely and utterly rejected? I think that's a possibility. And of course, the longer this goes on, the longer it becomes more obvious that, well, someone says, I thought football was a spin-off of Olympic spitting. How will they cope if they can't spit? Well, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that. But I most definitely think that the whole, you cannot have social distancing and masks and a normal society. You just can't have it. And I completely reject this expression, the new normal. The correct name for the new normal is abnormal, right? So when you hear the new normal, reject it 100%. There's an interesting point. Chris says Italy is fully open. You're absolutely right. Italy is fully open. I understand. So is Portugal. So across Europe, even for all my dislike of the European Union, they seem to be opening up. And we are still reticent, like little church mice, scared to scuttle out and do anything. And we still have a section of society out there who do not want to go. They've been scared senseless by government. They're afraid to. Daniel says, David looks like he's in the Starship Enterprise. Indeed, Daniel, I am indeed in the Starship Enterprise. And very shortly, I'm going to go where no man has gone before. Old Facts asked a few questions here. I'll take a few questions just before I finish. Thoughts on the ludicrous quarantine period? It's disastrous. I mean, I can't think who can. The time to do a quarantine period was back in February and March. That's when to do it. It's too late now. The horse is bolted. Old Facts. There should be the quarantine period will just. If our economy wasn't already in peril, it will destroy it even further. Surely someone can see that. Surely, I'm sure you folks can all see that this quarantine period is period. Someone says China has, the entire universe. Do you agree? Yeah, I do. I completely blame China for the China virus. It's quite interesting to see that some of those out rioting against Trump in the States seem to be Chinese. Interesting. Someone said, Graham says, COVID has been a distraction from the real issues in Britain today. Well, of course, you're right. You're absolutely right, Graham. There's so many issues. And also, can I just say, all these people virtue signaling about Mr. Floyd in the States, but they don't virtue signal in the same way about those who have been the victims of jihad attacks here in the UK. I don't remember those demonstrations. Do you? I recall when all those little girls and their family were murdered at the Manchester Arena, we were told, don't look back in anger. Do you remember that? Do not look back in anger. But when it comes to Mr. George Floyd, anger is the only reaction. It's valid. It's appropriate. So yeah. Why is it we can see the idiocy of it all, but the government can't? The government. This is a discussion I had earlier today. I absolutely believe the government see exactly the idiocy of what they can, of what they're doing, but they also believe, and this is a pretty horrible thing to say, that they can get away with it. They can convince enough of the people out there, maybe not us, but they can convince enough of the people to sustain what they're doing. Jane asks, do you believe? Oh, sorry, just wanted to get that one. Do you believe Boris is running the country? I don't know, Jane. I don't know. If he is, he's doing a very bad job of it. And actually, I couldn't believe earlier today when he came out with this nonsense on Twitter about, well, yes, we have to, being cognizant of COVID and all of that, but let's not forget the importance of being carbon neutral by 2040. Are you kidding? Are you absolutely kidding, Boris Johnson? If the country wasn't going to be destroyed by the COVID response of government, imposing the carbon neutral agenda is absolutely lethal for a country's well-being. So I don't understand. I don't really understand where Boris is coming from anymore. The only thing I would say about Boris and Dominic Cummings is this. I think when it comes to the Brexit and the resolution, that they seem to be being pretty resolute there. That's the only thing I would say that I'm sort of with Boris on. Most of the rest of it, it's very dodgy stuff. I mean, I think, for example, that the reason that they came out yesterday with this declaration that you've all got to wear masks if you go out in public is, that was to appease the media. The media were calling for, Boris has been appeasing the media from March. Rebecca Butler made that clear when she revealed the minutes of the SAGE meetings back in March. And it was perfectly obvious from those minutes that it wasn't Professor Neil Ferguson, it wasn't the SAGE scientists, it wasn't any of that. It was Boris Johnson who decided to lock us down. Boris took the decision. And it's disturbing. It disturbs me greatly. Oh, hello to Ashwar. Thank you very much for coming onto the stream. Unfortunately, I'm about to end up. So, I think that we're going to probably end up with a no deal in Brexit. I'm cool with that. We just need to go. The European Union is going to collapse. We need out. It's that simple. Although Carol actually does say, do you think Boris has changed his stance after he got the virus? Yeah. I sort of think he does. I think he has been very weak since he's come back. And I don't want to get into conversations in the NHS and all of the rest of it, conversations about schools. I don't want to talk about that. But what I do think is that the Boris Johnson post-COVID is a shadow of the Boris Johnson pre-COVID. But don't forget, government is just more than one person. There's a lot of people in that government and a lot of people advising that government. And I think they've lost their way. They've lost their touch. Don't know if you agree with me or not, but that's what I think. Jane says Trump will win by a landslide, and our government will be in the spotlight for being part of the Obamagate attempted coup. Absolutely right. I believe Trump will win. Did anyone see Joe Biden on American TV? It's painful to watch. I actually, I got to say, I feel sorry for Joe Biden. He's obviously a guy in the early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's. He shouldn't be put in that position. The media are doing obviously the scum media are doing their best, but Sleepy Joe ain't going to win. Trump's going to win. So I don't understand why. Well, I want to see the British government be as close as possible to the Trump administration. Although I did see Nicola Sturgeon insult the US president again by suggesting he was a racist. Quick question. Maybe someone could tell me, back to the SNP, how many black leaders have they had? How many black deputy leaders have they had? How many black members of the Holyrood Parliament have there been? How many? Just to the nearest? None. That's right, Chris. Absolutely right. Sturgeon is a hypocrite of the highest level. And I feel so sorry for Scottish people who have to endure her. It's a really sad affair. Joseph, I couldn't possibly comment on that wicked allegation you just made. But I don't want to comment about it now. Let's not say things which we cannot substantiate. But anyway, listen. Thanks very much for thanks very much for all of you folks being with me. Thanks for sticking with me as I go through this process of setting up a regular. I'd like to have this where I talk just straight to you and where you can talk directly to me. I'd love to find a way to bring some of you on so you can actually maybe speak directly to me. So I want to do this. I want to do the conversations with people like Anne-Marie, people like Rebecca, people like David Sedgwick, the biased BBC author. If anyone knows, I have asked Jared Batten, would he come on to speak to me? He hasn't responded, so I'm not sure if there's any Jared Batten fans out there. But Jared, I'm here. I'm friendly. I won't eat you, and we would have a good conversation. But anyway, I want to try and get the balance right with having these people. So just to let you know. But in the meantime, the most important people are you. You're what make this. You've always made this for me. So thank you very much for all of you folks. Gas engineers and otherwise, Acrington and from elsewhere. Tommy Robinson, I would have Tommy Robinson on like a shot. No problems. I believe in, we should all engage in civilized conversation. That's how I think it should be. But listen, thanks for being with me. Thanks for your support. And we'll catch up on this format on Monday night. Hopefully Rebecca Butler will be with me. So if you enjoy Rebecca, I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about then. In the meantime, stay safe and speak soon. Bye for now.